Hello and welcome to We the Students, a political discussion sponsored by Nauset Regional High School's AP U.S. Government and Politics program in collaboration with Nauset's video production class. During the next 30 minutes, our panel of 10th and 12th grade Nauset students will discuss the issue of abortion in the United States. President-elect Donald Trump is vowing to appoint pro-life judges to the Supreme Court who could possibly overturn the landmark court case Roe v. Wade. How would such a decision impact our government and our society? I am your guest host, Elena O'Connor, a junior here at Nauset and veteran of the AP Government class. Just for the record, opinions expressed here belong to the panelists and are not the views of Nauset Regional High School or the Nauset Regional School District. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a special email address for our panel today. Please feel free to email us your thoughts and suggestions about today's topic so we can continue this discussion in our government classroom. Now, let's meet our panel. On the pro-choice side, we have Ailey Gallion, Joe Clifford, Elise Burgess, and on the pro-life side, we have Brendan Hamady, Kaylee Farrell, and Emily Wall. This side would start their opening statement.
Abortion should be illegal due to the fact that abortion is killing innocent babies.
All right, and would you guys like to say your opening statement?
One of the most fundamental rights of a person is the freedom to control their own body, and one of the most important ways to implement this right for women is by giving them the right to have an abortion if they choose to do so. Abortion, although an incredibly difficult decision to make for everyone, can help change a woman's life for the better and overall benefit the general public.
All right, so one of the more common questions when it comes to the debate on abortion is when life starts. And is there a difference between when life starts and when personhood starts? What are your thoughts on that?
No. I think life starts the second the sperm and the egg combine to create a zygote, which is a new form of living. Like, there are many studies that show there's two specific criterias in order for an organism to be defined as an organism. And one criteria is the fact that the cell has to be able to produce different functions than the two cells that created it. So since a sperm and an egg combine to make a zygote, that zygote automatically starts to function differently than necessarily a specific, a sperm does not have the same function that a zygote does, and neither does an egg. Therefore, the zygote has different functions, creating it to meet the first criteria of being called a living organism. And the second criteria is that it can develop different patterns and different ways to live. And the zygote, actually, in the first 30 minutes of conception, begins to develop many different organ systems and different structural tissues that further prove that this zygote is continuing to develop a complex structure, showing that it's a living organism rather than like a living cell.
The thing about that is that although it is developing and beginning to develop into what will possibly be a life, I believe that it's more important for the woman who has been alive for however many years old she is to be able to make a decision about what's best for her, whether she's going through financial troubles or she's in a...
The thing about financial troubles is that financial troubles are something that you can override that by, if you give birth to the child, you don't have to struggle with finances of raising this child because you have many other options, such as giving it up for adoption.
The thing about the adoption system is that it's very flawed, and many children in both the adoption system and the foster care system go through abuse or neglect. So it could be very emotionally traumatizing for a woman knowing that her child could be in danger and she wasn't good enough to support it or to get it through this time, and she had to give it up, and now it's in a place that's possibly of danger.
So just killing off all the babies is a simpler way of helping the adoption system?
And it can also be emotionally traumatizing to kill an innocent child. Like, the way they abort children these days.
It depends on what you define as what. If you can't kill something that wasn't alive in the first place.
But it is.
But it is. It's growing. It contains
so
human DNA that is separate from its mother. It has all the chromosomes and.
But it's not able to live on its own.
It's
and there's a difference
completely
between
dependent on its mother.
How is that proven? Because
how is it, if you take a zygote out of the mother, is it going to survive on its own?
And as research continues to improve, I know.
There's no way that an
Emily found
embryo
some-
is going to be able to survive without its mother. So if
That's
you
not
take
the point.
But that's
It doesn't
not-
have a brain, it doesn't
Yeah,
have a
it
heartbeat, it
does.
doesn't meet any of the
Okay.
qualifications
22
for
days
life.
after conception, a heartbeat is detectable on a sonogram. 22 days.
I don't see how you can say it's not living if its heart is beating. Like last time I checked, if your heart is beating, you're living. If it's not, you are dead.
Well, a beating heart
Or
doesn't
not living.
necessarily mean you're alive. Like,
Yes, it does.
I know
Yes, it
in the medical field that you're considered dead once your brain stops working. So why would
You're
the baby be
considered
considered
brain
alive
dead.
if it?
Not.
I have a question for the pro-choice side. Do you think that abortion should be in debate after being settled in the Supreme Court's ruling in the landmark case Roe v. Wade? And could you tell us a little bit about that case?
Well, I don't think so, because it was decided so long ago by an overwhelming majority of the court, 7-2, and I think the Supreme Court's already ruled on it, and there's been so many cases of abortion, or there's been so many cases challenging abortion brought to the Supreme Court, and every time they've ruled the same way, and I think people just need to move on from abortion and focus on other things.
Roe v. Wade was decided in 1973. 43 years actually of medical advances have occurred since then.
Since then, there have been other cases challenging Roe v. Wade. That doesn't mean that like they aren't still relevant. Like
Yeah.
Most of them weren't challenging them,
AOT
they were adding
versus
on to it.
Planned Parenthood of
You,
New England?
you
Yeah.
also just said that like we have to move on. How can you move on if you're killing this innocent young child, this innocent young baby who has to suffer from their parents' decisions and their parents' decision to?
You
Well,
can't
the,
call it
the
a
child
child.
would suffer from the parent's decision to actually
doesn't-
have
that's
the
not
child
fair.
because
All of
they're
the time-
put in
Why doesn't this
unfavorable
baby get a
conditions.
Then
for
they
it.
should have made
Why
that
doesn't the
decision
mother
the
get a
night
choice?
before.
The mother deserves to have the right to choose what she does with her own body.
So should the
Yeah,
baby.
she should have chosen that, and she should have known the consequences the night before.
But you can't stop people from having sex. You can't say don't have sex because you might get pregnant.
Yeah,
No,
but they
you-
should know the consequences. Like if you're speeding on the road, you know you're speeding, and you know that there's a possibility that
different,
you're going to
because
get
that
pulled
endangers-
over
Is it really?
for a
It's committing-
speeding ticket,
That's
and then
different,
you
because
have
it-
to pay for the consequences.
That endangers other people's lives. And in the
Abortion
case of-
kills somebody.
Child.
Do you even fully comprehend what happens in abortion?
Because it's
Yeah.
not a life.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it
There
is.
Okay, there is a form of abortion in which they make an incision within the baby's skull, and they remove brain matter so that the skull collapses. And in that process, the baby can feel pain. That is excruciating.
Actually,
You're
the baby-
well, that
practically torturing
depends
a
on when
child.
it's
Can't feel-
performed.
Yeah, it depends
Where
on
did you
when
find
the
that?
abortion is.
What? Just I have a link.
The ability to feel pain, the cortex, it doesn't develop until the
26th,
the 26th week of a pregnancy.
which is long after most
That's-
abortions are performed.
that's-
Yeah,
way
most
into the
abortions
second
are performed at or
trimester.
before 9 weeks. That's when it's still an embryo.
Most late-term abortions are only because the mother's health is in incredible danger.
Actually, at the end of 8 weeks, it's called a fetus. And
But
like
it's
an
still
embryo.
it still can't feel pain.
Okay, where did you find that?
The Britain's Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists
Yep.
and the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it still has a heartbeat 20 days after conception.
That doesn't
Well,
mean
I think
it's
there's a
capable
difference
of
between
feeling
life
pain.
and personhood. So if a baby can't think and it doesn't have it doesn't even have the ability to process brainwaves and stuff, that's different from being alive, because I mean there's plants are alive, bacteria are alive, but it's not murder to kill a plant.
How does it?
A plant's
Okay,
not a
then-
human. It's not capable of
How
thought.
is it? It's
Exactly.
able-
So an embryo that's not
Yeah.
capable of thought isn't a
You
human.
have to give it a chance to develop. You can't just kill something because it's not developed yet.
It's not killing if it's not developed, is
Oh
it?
yeah?
Yeah.
Joe, but
It
guess
is-
what? It counts as a person.
It doesn't have
Because
to be.
according to the Unborn Victims of Violence Act,
According
it
to
says
That's not a source. No, in the unborn victims
It
violence,
specifically says,
explicitly
nothing in this
says-
section shall be construed to permit the prosecution of any person for conduct relating to an abortion for which the consent of the pregnant woman or a person authorized by law to act on her behalf has been obtained or for which such consent is implied by law.
Okay, but you keep going to the basis of women should have the right to their body, and I found out that in the first few weeks before the chromosomes determine the sex of the child, all babies begin as females, so why shouldn't they have a right as well? They're the same gender for the first few weeks.
But
So why shouldn't they have the same rights?
You're talking about an undeveloped.
It's
not
developing.
even-
It can't be developed unless it's developed. It has to develop in order to become fully developed. It makes sense. Like, in order for you to be fully developed, like, you wouldn't be where you are right now if you hadn't started the stages of life and begun to develop over time.
All right, I have a question for the pro-life side. So throughout history, we've seen when certain things get banned that people have a need for or a want, there creates a black market and people find a way to get them. So do you think that banning abortion is worth the risks that will come with women going in through like illegal ways to get abortions without the government knowing because it's illegal and there are a lot of dangers associated with that? So is that worth it?
Obviously, there's, obviously, everything that is illegal, there are back ways to everything. Like, drugs are illegal, but people still do them. So by making abortion illegal, there's still going to be abortion out there, but it's going to
More
definitely
dangerous abortion
decrease.
that will lead
It's
to
going
more
to decrease
maternal
the
deaths.
numbers, and it's going to give these families that can't have children a chance to actually complete their life.
There's about
By having these
108,000 children in the foster care system waiting to be adopted
Yeah, I
today.
think that's more
Okay,
than enough
that's-
for families that need a child.
So just kill off the rest? Like, are you trying to control population? Like, why? Like, I just don't get why you want to kill off these people
'Cause
just because
mothers-
there's too many people already in the adoption system.
because
And the thing with the adoption center is that if you feel that it's not improved as much as it could be, why not spend the money we're spending on abortions and put it into the adoption center and improving their ways so that these children can find homes?
But
Because there are plenty of people out there.
you see, if we make abortion illegal, more money is going to be going to welfare rather than the foster care system. The congressional
That's not true. The
because
House can make a bill
the
redirecting
Congressional
money.
Budget Office found that a bill that would ban all abortions nationwide after 20 weeks of pregnancy would increase the federal deficit by $225 million over 9 years.
Also, currently, abortion induces welfare costs for taxpayers. And that's from the Congressional Budget Office.
Because usually women who have kids, women who seek abortions who are forced to have children, don't have the financial resources to support those children, so they're going to be needing welfare
Yet
to
most
pay for them.
healthcare providers do not provide abortions as a part of their package. So women have to pay thousands of dollars for these abortions anyways. Yet they don't have the money to support a child either.
Sometimes
they-
that's the only option for her.
How is
only
that
option
the
It's
is
only
better,
$30,000
it's
option?
better to spend the money on an abortion. It's going to be more expensive to raise a child for
Yeah,
18
better-
years than it
Put
is to
it
get
out
an
to
abortion
adoption
once.
then.
It's
and
not.
it is to give them another chance at living in another home. Like, my aunt and uncle, they can't have kids, and they're lucky enough to have adopted 2 kids. And I know that if they could have kids, they would obviously have a lot more by now. And the fact that you're arguing that you rather kill a child, like a baby, than give it a chance at life, or give other people a chance to complete their life with these children, like, that just doesn't
Do you
make
think
sense
it's
to
better
me.
to be born into a life where you're most likely going to suffer, or do you think it's better
How are
to
they
not be
gonna
born at
suffer?
all?
How are
Well,
they going to suffer if
either-
they're
They
given
know
a
they'll
chance?
suffer.
Either they're
That's
going to
just
be
speculation.
People who are raised in humble homes can still grow to be amazing people.
either they're going to be born to parents who don't want them, or they're going to be in the foster care system, which is very flawed in our
Most
country.
Prove it.
children who end up in the foster care system are emotionally, they're emotionally disregarded and aren't treated well by their foster parents or adoptive parents.
Then that's
and
the problem with the foster care system and the adoption systems. It's not the problem because of abortion.
Yes, but are you
Right.
saying that it would be better
But
for
you're
children
arguing
to
that
suffer
kids
throughout
will-
this system than to not have suffered in the first place?
We are now 15 minutes in. You're watching We the Students, a public affairs political discussion of AP government students at Nauset Regional High School. At the bottom of your screen is a special email address from for our panel. Please feel free to email us your thoughts and suggestions about today's topic so we can continue this discussion in our government classroom. All right. I have another question for the pro-life side. How do you feel about abortion in the case of rape or incest, health of the child, or health of the mother?
I think that obviously to every situation or every issue there is at least one exception. And from my research that I found, it says less than 1% of abortion cases are, less than 1% of the women that get abortions due to rape. So therefore, I think that we can move on and accept this as being one exception that should be debated at a different time, and that right now we should focus on the other 99% of the cases that happen on a day-to-day basis.
All right. So for the pro-choice side, how would banning abortion impact gender equality and women in the workforce?
Well, I said that I had in my notes that abortion would restrict a woman's autonomy to determine the course of her own life. If a woman is forced to have a child, then she's forced to care for that child until
But
it's
she made a decision before.
She's undergoing actions that could result in having a child.
She didn't make the decision to get pregnant.
Well, she's not
She
forced
knew
to
the
have the child.
consequences of what can
She
happen.
didn't
Okay,
force
but
the continue.
Over 99% of women aged 15 to 44 who have ever had sex are using contraception. So you can't say that they're not like foreseeing this thing. They are, and they're trying to prevent it based on.
But you have to know that no matter what you do to try to protect yourself, there may be a consequence, and you have to go into it knowing that no matter how safe you may be, you have to know that there are consequences.
But
to
you
this.
shouldn't be forced to have a child just because you wanted to have sex, because pretty much everyone has sex. And
But it doesn't always happen that they get pregnant every time.
yeah,
It only
and
happens.
it does happen occasionally, and
it does.
not always on purpose. So you shouldn't be forced to have that child when that accident does
Every
happen.
action has a consequence. You can't just sit back and take a redo. You have to grow and learn to accept the results of your actions.
You're talking like abortion isn't a consequence. Abortion is a very emotionally taxing process to go through. It's a horrible decision
So why
to make.
would you want to put
That's
yourself
why I say it's a horrible decision to
Because
make.
the
and-
other
it's not
option-
going to have a better effect. It's better to go through with the birth and give the child to a family that might actually want to adopt, or other methods like foster care, than going through all the emotional pain and not getting anything out of it except for the regret that you've killed your oldest child. Like many women that have gotten abortions now look at their eldest child knowing it's not actually their oldest. Like, how can you live knowing that you killed your oldest child? That would be
If
a
you
nightmare.
did the thing that was better for yourself, it doesn't even matter about financials, but if you emotionally can't handle the responsibility of knowing that your child is out in the world and there was nothing you could have done to support it, or you weren't good enough to support it, then
But there is
Then you
such
should
thing.
know your situation beforehand. I'm sorry, but you
So-
know.
So,
consequences.
Are you saying that if you're poor, you shouldn't be having sex?
There's a way to
No.
keep in touch. Like, if, like some adoption cases, they are open, and there's a way for the birth mom to stay in contact and watch her child grow up. And maybe when they're older, they can meet up, and then she can feel fulfilled, like she did the right thing, which is not killing this innocent child and actually giving it a chance in life. There are many people that would not be in this world and not make an impact in this world if their parents had chosen to abort them.
I actually, studies by the American Psychological Association and the Academy of Medical Royal Colleges says that women who were denied abortions felt more regret and anger and less relief and happiness than those who had had abortions, and most women who receive abortions felt it was the right decision a week after the procedure.
Yeah, that's a week
How about
after,
a
but
year?
think of a life, like think of 10 years in advance when you actually might start to want to have children. How are you?
Then have
People
children
regret
then.
things all the time.
Yes,
It doesn't
but
mean
you're
they-
still gonna regret it.
Having children is an important decision that requires lots of planning and
But
coordination.
if a woman decides that it's the wrong time and has an abortion, and then later on decides to have a child, there could be complications with that birth. It is more likely to have a miscarriage, and it is more likely to have a premature baby.
And then they're gonna wish that they had gone through that.
Well, that's why it should be their choice, because they should be able to like decide whether or not it's necessary
But
for
it shouldn't
them.
just be their choice. What about the husband's choice or the boyfriend's choice?
There's
her body.
There's 50% of what
The man should have
her
no
own
say.
body. When men start getting pregnant, they can do their
unless
own.
the man is present. So therefore, why should the woman get the whole say if the man is 50%?
Because it's
That's
her
not how it
body.
works
It's
anyway.
the woman's body, so she should have control over her own body.
And
So
her
what
own
if
choices.
what if this man would like a child and the woman does not? The woman can go through with the birth and give the child legally to the male that was involved.
So if a woman
That's not
commits
fair to the
murder,
male either.
like she kills someone who's
It's her own
age,
action.
So she
So murder's
shoots
okay.
a gun and shoots a guy. Then So she's had control of her body. So are you saying she had the right to do that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, no,
So
she
she
doesn't.
could
She
have
doesn't
the right
have
to
the
murder
right-
that
no,
man.
she
She
doesn't
doesn't
have the
have
right
Somebody is
to
committing
mur-
murder.
She should have control over her own body. Like,
But that's when you murder someone that's giving you like control over someone else's body, and so
That's exactly what it is.
abortion.
An abortion
No,
is.
because a
A
lot
body
of
is
no,
being
it's not. You
developed.
can't just say
that
when
means
life.
that by having an abortion, you're actually causing physical pain or harm to another person's body.
But you're not.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
Your own body, but not the child's body,
Yes,
because the
but
body
fetal
can't feel pain
surgery-
unless it's by the 26th week.
In fetal surgery, the child is prescribed their own anesthesia. How does that? That's separate body, just living inside.
maybe after the brain is developed enough to feel pain, but I don't know if that happens before the 26th week of pregnancy.
It does.
All right. So for the pro-life side, do you believe that religion should play a role in the reasoning to ban abortion?
No.
No, it shouldn't.
It's not religion based. It's basically just science and facts, because even if you are religious, it doesn't matter the religion, because people are still getting abortions within their own religion. So it shouldn't have anything to do with religion. It should just be the facts that a child is beginning to grow at conception, and after that,
And-
if you continue to go through with the abortion, you're basically killing an innocent baby. I can't stress that enough.
Here's the thing, you're acting like you keep saying innocent baby, and there's no way you can guarantee that when, let's say, a woman is thinking of getting an abortion and she doesn't, and the child grows up to be like a murderer or
That's
some.
hypothetical.
It's
Yeah,
much more
but it's
likely
also
than the general
hypothetical that they're
population.
going to be a great person. You never know.
Yeah, but
That's
the
the thing, but-
Constitution protects life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so, what is different from a mother having life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and a child having life, liberty,
Yeah,
and
if you have
the
the
pursuit
right
of
to live,
happiness?
In
the
the-
simple right to exist is removed when you
In
have
the
an abortion.
majority
That is
opinion,
the most basic, fundamental, unalienable right
in
you have.
the majority opinion in Roe v. Wade, they stated the word person, as used in the 14th Amendment, doesn't include the unborn.
So, but when the voting issue came up and it said white men have the right to vote, that's been changed, and men doesn't consider just men. It's the citizens of the United States.
But that wasn't from the original Constitution. That was the 14th Amendment, right?
But this is recent. I don't get what you're saying, because this is recent. The Supreme Court's, I mean, not too recent, 40 years, but it's more recent than 240 years, and
The Constitution is our supreme law of the land.
okay, but the Constitution, that's the whole reason we have a system of amendments, is so we can change the Constitution, because times change and we can't just keep the same rules
Precisely,
from
when
the
times
past.
change, you have more
Exactly.
medical
Yeah,
advancements proving
just like you
that
said.
Proving that abortion-
brainwaves, 20 days.
And yet the case still survives, and there's been so many counter.
But the problem with the case is it talks about the viability of the child. In 1973, viability was considered at 28 weeks. Today, viability can be as early as 22 weeks.
yeah, and that's never going to be as
Yeah,
early
And
as
which
as
is
research
long
goes on,
after
it's
most
going to
abortions are
improve.
performed.
What? Sorry, I didn't.
22 weeks is long after most abortions are performed.
Yeah.
But that's simply viability.
But
the
as
ability to
time
have
moves
brain
forward,
waves
that
established
line
after
of
20 days
viability
something.
is going to keep moving.
It's really not, because the science
Yes,
is
it
going to
is.
stay
It's
the
moved
same.
30 years.
Science is going to say the
Facts
Okay,
facts don't.
If abortion continues to be legalized and the methods continue to improve, the problem with that is that people are going to abuse the system. They're going to be having intercourse left and right, and they're just going to start specifying like, oh, I don't want a girl right now, that my baby is a girl, so I'm going to get an abortion and try to get a boy next time.
It-
Like,
Yeah, you can't
Realize
take
how
it.
much of
Society-
an emotionally taxing
Yeah, nobody is. There's a
process
reason.
abortion is.
There's a
it's
reason.
not
Someone
at
just
the
goes out
convenience
one
of the
day and
mother.
it's like, oh, I'm
That's
gonna
at
have
the
an abortion.
convenience
Okay.
of the mother, though. What about the child?
The
There's a-
trials and the tribulations of the mother are overshadowed by the life, the personality, and the opportunities presented by having a baby.
Okay,
the
but-
baby, it has priority
Just
over
before
the
you know who
mother.
else-
about you can't deal with potential, and you can't deal with opportunities. You have to deal with the facts.
The
you
fact is,
The mother also
most-
has potential. By forcing the mother to have that child, you're getting rid of
Yeah.
that potential. Because most women who get abortions are like still figuring out what they want to do with their, like,
How
they're
do you
still
know?
like
Yeah,
college.
that's how do you
Okay,
know?
honey, it's okay. You don't have your life figured out yet. You can go kill a child. It's okay.
According to a September 2005 survey in the peer-reviewed Perspectives on Sexual and Reproductive Health, asking women why they had an abortion, found that 73% of respondents said they could not afford to have a baby, and 38% said giving birth would interfere with their education and
Was that
career
one?
goals.
Was that one survey a single survey?
Yeah.
Before
You have
we
to
I
have
end,
realize you have to have
multiple
multiple sources, right?
To prove anything.
before we end, I have one more question for both sides. Is the issue of abortion an issue of morality?
Okay, so abortion, in essence, is ending another person's life, and obviously, murder, another circumstance in ending another person's life, is completely immoral. You cannot, and the law prohibits this, go out and kill another living being without facing the consequences. Then how come abortion and ending somebody's life results in no consequence whatsoever? And okay, what she shut me down earlier from saying is that the Unborn Victims of Violence Act says that when a criminal attacks a pregnant woman and injures both her and the unborn child, or kills both her and the unborn child, the person claimed 2 unborn victims. So if that counts as killing another individual, besides the mother, then how come abortion isn't? You have to have the law applied to the same way in multiple
Well,
circumstances.
the Unborn Victims of Violence Act is completely invalid, so let's get rid of that argument because it specifically states that it doesn't apply to abortions. And
That can be changed.
as we've stated several times before, the fetus isn't really alive until a certain point after the brain is
It has
developed.
a heartbeat.
Just
after
because it has a
20
heartbeat
days.
doesn't
and it is
mean it's alive.
brainwaves.
No, brain
That's not
waves.
true.
Does it
It
have
happens.
consciousness though?
Joe, if
Is it-
your heart stops beating right now, you're arguing that, like, if your heart is beating, that means you're alive right now, correct? So if your heart stops beating, that means that you're passed away, right?
Well,
Not
no,
necessarily,
Every
no.
heartbeat, it's
No,
living.
the only way you can die is if your brain doesn't get oxygen. So just because your heart, like,
Yeah,
there's
your
going
heart,
to be that
your
time.
heart circulates blood through your body, which circulates oxygen. So basically,
Yeah, so it's
your-
going to take a while before that reaches your
So-
brain. So you're still alive, even if it's like
For a
that
few
window.
minutes.
We're going to have to end on that note. Unfortunately, we're just about out of time, and so we're going to have to hold our discussion there. Again, we invite you, our viewers, to email us your thoughts and suggestions about today's topic so we can continue this discussion in our government classroom. We thank Nauset High School's television production class and Lower Cape TV for making this valuable experience possible for all of us. That concludes another segment of We the Students, a political discussion sponsored by Nauset Regional High School's AP US Government and Politics program. I'm Elena O'Connor. Thanks for watching.